Let's start now. Indus Valley Civilization. You want that fan? Fine? Okay. Up to now, we have seen before the emergence of Indus Valley Civilization itself, we had already some settlements in the Indian subcontinent. It is not something that suddenly it emerged. First, we will see the questions, how UPSC is asking questions, how it expects questions from this topic. Before that, let's make a map, India map, so that the right perspective will come. Sanju, draw the map. Satya, you also follow me, you can draw the map. Afghanistan, Pakistan, India. This chapter is very, very important from the examination point of view, because this civilization really helped to increase our pride, because it was discovered in 1921. In 1920s, excavations started in a much rigorous way. But after independence, real progress started. But despite that, in 1920s, it gave huge boost to our morale. That's why this is very important from the examination point of view also, many questions used to come. But nowadays, trend is keep on changing. For example, in the last classes we have seen, in this part, already Neolithic settlement, Chalcolithic settlements emerged. As a result, already some subsistence pattern. Now, Indus Valley Civilization, we generally talk about 2600 BCE to 1900 BC. This is the mature phase. During this time period, we have seen the urban areas. But before the rise of urban areas, already before that, some kind of subsistence pattern were there. Hunting and gathering, fishing was going on, domestication. Big difference is agriculture, and as a result, artisan activities, trading activities. Once all the subsistence pattern, now wealth is generated in the areas, and this wealth helped for the rise of urban areas. Earlier questions were coming like on these aspects. And once this kind of subsistence pattern, they lived comfortably, and they started thinking about religion beliefs, and we study about society also. These are broadly economy, and this is the extent. So this is the extent or the geographic, the location. Now if I see the questions, in 2022, 20 mark question came, 2021, 15 marker came, 2020 there was no question, 2019 20 marks, 2018 15 marks, 2017 no question, 2016 20 questions, 20 marks, and 15, 14, 15 again no question, 14, 13 also like that. If you see this, almost every year, except if you remove some of them, 20 marker or 15 marker, 20 marker or 15 marker, 20 marker or 15 marker. Just to note down the themes. Give the heading. So you give the PYQ analysis. Themes. This gives us the right perspective. In what direction we have to study about Harappans. Just I will read the question, but you just simply mention the theme only. That's it. For example, in earlier times, in 1970s, they asked town planning. Town planning. This is 1979. In 1979, they just town planning 60 marks. 60 marks, there was no concept of printing the question and giving the space. Open booklet, you can put the number and you can start as many pages as you want. So many pages you can fill, like whatever you used to do in the degree. Sorry? Duration of exam, I don't know exactly. Probably 3 hours only, because number of questions are 5 only. Total number of questions were 5. This is one question. And like that, 4 more. So half an hour, 40 minutes, just you keep on writing. Town planning. Now, if I see the direct questions, earlier they used to give. But nowadays, how, by the time we reach 2022, how questions are changing. You need not to write, because you will be given that booklet, nothing to worry. Give an appraisal of town planning of the Indus cities and evaluate various reasons for its decline. In last class, we have seen the emergence of these urban areas. Now, before the emergence of urban areas, all these activities are going on. These are the causes. We need to give about the characteristics and causes for decline. This is how question was coming. Next one, trade. Next theme, trade. Next theme about trade. Now, in order to survive the trading economy, you need different raw materials. You need raw materials from some place, and you need the markets to take your goods to the certain areas. They practiced this similar thing. They used to procure raw materials from the villages and also far areas, and they used to export their goods to other regions, other cultures, and other countries as well. How question came? Discuss the trade, cultural contacts, and the extent of the Indus civilization within and outside India. Are you getting? Within India and outside India, what are the? We always use Indian subcontinent. External contact means Sumerian they are. Primarily they are talking about Sumerian, Mesopotamia. Next. This is one type of thing. Another type, origin theories. Origin theories, 1982. Now you see this. They are mixing. Now in last class, we have seen what happened before the emergence of urban. After the decline of urban areas, this area is going to be settled by Aryans, Rigvedic people, what we call. That time period is 1500 BC to 1000 BC. Now you see this question, origin theory. This question is about origin theory related to Indus Valley civilization, but they used to mix. Let us see this. How they mix. Was India civilized before the advent of Aryans? Are you getting the question? Sanju, are you getting the question? Was India civilized before the advent of Aryans? State briefly extent and striking features of earlier civilization, if any. They did not mention Harappa anywhere. They did not mention Harappa, they did not mention Indus. Simply it appears like question is about Aryans. But it is, was India civilized before the advent of Aryans? State briefly the extent. So before Aryans, already some civilization is there. That means indirectly we need to talk about Indus Valley civilization. So this is about already civilization in India. Next one, religion. Relatively straightforward earlier, but nowadays it is focusing more on environmental aspect, because we are talking about global warming, environmental changes in international relations also. In such a way, now questions with respect to this also is changing dynamically. Religion, simply, now you say this. Examine the contribution of Vedic culture in the sphere of social institutions and religion. Was there any continuity between the Indus and Vedic cultures in this respect? Question is about Aryan religion. But they are asking us to link, was there any relationship between Indus religion and Vedic religion? To write this answer, we definitely should know about what was the religion of Indus Valley civilization. Both. In this question, both you need to write. How different, how continuity, how differently new elements came. So you need to talk about Indus Valley civilization religion also. Which elements entered into the later ages, which elements brought by the Aryan Vedic. This is our religious theme. Next one, decline. Next one about decline. Simply straightforward. How do you account for the decline of the major cities of Indus Valley civilization. How do you account for the decline of major cities? We are talking about urbanization, and during this time period, peak urbanization happened, but after that, no urban areas. Why this particularly, this question is very interesting means, after 1900, we did not see the urban areas. And do you know after how many years we see once again urban areas? During Mahajanapada time period. Mahajanapada time period is which time period? 600 BCE. Now you see after 1900, we are going to see once again urban areas only around this time period. This is why this particular question is interesting one. What happened in between? Now you see almost 400 and 900, 1300 years it took almost to see once again urban areas. That means before 1300 years, definitely these people must be much advanced comparing with their contemporary people. Because of that, urban areas are important, and why they declined. That was the theme. Next, 86-1, relatively decline only, decline and continue. Continuity. Because this one is very, very crucial for general studies point of view also. UPSC is trying to ask, already one question was asked. When other civilizations like Sumerian civilization, Greek civilization, Egyptian civilization, they all vanished over a period of time. We are not talking about them. When they were flourishing, they were very great cultures. And they were contemporary to Indus Valley civilization. And in fact, they, for example, Sumerian, they emerged in Iraq, this region. In fact, these urban areas emerged much before Indus Valley civilization. Despite that fact, if we see today in 21st century, in our Indian culture, we have the elements of Indus Valley, even today also. But there is no such continuity in this area. It completely destroyed in the history. Same is the case with the Egyptian civilization, Sumerian civilization, and the Greek civilization also to some extent. In general studies itself, it was asked, when these civilizations discontinued, but in India, the civilization aspect is continuing. What are the reasons? So indirectly, we have to trace our cultural aspects to the Indus Valley civilization. So since Indus Valley civilization, we had some kind of cultural elements, even today also they are continuing. In optional also, similar question. Continuity. How would you explain the presence of the elements in Indian culture and the civilization which are found to have existed in the Indus Valley civilization? How do you account for even today also, in what aspects we are continuing? Next one, features. Features. Simply they are asking about economic, social, religious. And in fact, they are not only asking about the Indus Valley civilization features, and they are asking to compare with Vedic period. That's why Indus Valley civilization, Vedic always have relationship. We cannot see both of them too distinct. So much work is already going on, already worked also, already so many theories also. That's why this question is always expected. They are asking about compare the economic, social, religious life of Indus people with that of the early Vedic people and discuss the relative chronology of Indus and early Vedic cultures. Chronology also, and how these institutions in Indus Valley, these institutions in Vedic. Next again repetition. In 88 about decline. In 90 also about the decline. In 91 external trade of Harappans. And 93 burial practices. Sorry, 93. Simply they are asking about the burial customs in the Indus civilization. Next again, 94, trade. 96, religion. 97, continuity. The continuity of Indus civilization into later ages was not confined to the religious and spiritual fields alone. Analyze. Next, 99, decline. 2002, urbanization. Analyze the elements of urban civilization in the Harappan culture. What factors were responsible for its decline? Same theme is repeating. Once again, 2011. There was gap in between 2002 to 2011. No question. And in 2011, urbanization. Now you see how question is changing. They are asking, trace the development of urbanization from the 3rd millennium BCE to 6th century BCE. Are you getting? Now they are asking us to trace from 3rd millennium BCE, that means from this time period to this time period urbanization. Now you see how we need to connect. Our history optional, we cannot have separate sections, silos. We should be able to link the connectivity between Indus to Vedic to the Mahajanapada time period. Because this is the evidence of the question, how questions are coming. Now you see from 2013 onwards, completely game is changing. Up to now, 60 marker questions. All these were 60 marker questions. But in 2013 onwards, like micro topics. From here onwards, 20 marker, 15 marker, 20 marker, 15 marker, like that. 2013, you write this, water management. Particularly you write from 2013. Water management. Simply the question is, discuss the water management and conservation planning in the Harappan, Indus, Saraswati cities. Very micro topic. Now you see, earlier like external trade, external contacts, religion, you can write very broadly. But without evidence, how much you can write? And this is for 20 marker. You have to fill 3 pages. And 3 pages you have to talk about water management. Unless you know the various details, whether it is reservoirs, whether it is drinking water purpose, whether it is agriculture purpose, whether it is drainage purpose, for each and everything you have to give the evidences, in which locations we find the evidence about this water management. That's why map is going to be very crucial in understanding. 2014, this is about economy. Question is, do you think the Harappan civilization had a diversity of subsistence base? Diversity of subsistence. So what does it mean? Subsistence means simply they are asking about the agriculture, trade, artisan activities, all of them. Next, 2016. Geography. Explain why the majority of the known Harappan settlements are located in the semi-arid areas with saline groundwater. You see, are you able to see the difference? Comparing with the previous, before 2013, what type of questions? Here they are asking semi-arid areas. Why the urban areas are located in semi-arid areas with groundwater, saline water? This is the nature of questions, how they are changing. This is for 20 marker. This we will see. One reason is this geographic. You have to explain about the geographic relation. And this is close to this area. Already this area is having the urban civilization, had some contacts. Even though this is desert area, some rivers are available. Because of that, more settlements emerged. And in fact, before the emergence of this, already 2000, 3000 years before itself, tradition of villages were there. That is another reason. Another reason, we are talking about 3rd millennium BCE. Since 3rd millennium BCE, so much climatic activities might have happened. Cyclones might be there, rainfall might be there, continuous monsoon every year. As a result, wherever more rainfall is there, the evidence might have washed away. But this semi-arid area, relatively less rainfall, the preservation of the archaeological remains. That's why probably because of that we are able to see today also. The similar kind of cities might be there in Gangetic Valley also, but they might be washed away. That time they used to use mud bricks, and mud bricks they melt away when rain comes. So that is why preservation is also another reason. So all these aspects we are going to write. Next 18. Social and political related. Archaeological evidence does not give direct access to the possible social and political dimensions of the decline of the Harappan civilization. What it does indicate very clearly is that Harappan culture underwent a gradual process of deurbanization. So they are asking about what are the factors for deurbanization. There were no sudden changes. It's a gradual decline. If you see these themes, directly these themes are not there in the books. This is what the difference before 2013 and now. Our books will not directly have, for example, trade. Whatever book you take, you can have the subheading like the trade of Indus Valley people, then you will have the content. But you will never have the subheading like water management of Indus Valley, and you will not have. That is why it is becoming difficult. But content is same, but on the spot you have to think the water management related aspects wherever you study, and you need to write. Same is the case with the gradual decline. 2019. Did the mastery over agriculture act as a leverage for the rise of Harappan towns and cities? So simply agriculture and the importance of agriculture in the rise of urban areas. Importance of agriculture in the rise of urban areas. Satya, are you following how questions were coming? Okay. So this is how now 2019. 2021. Do you agree that ecological factors influenced the flow and ebb of Harappan civilization? Ecological. One trend you can see, environment, this also gradual decline, environment, ecological, environment. Ecological factors are responsible for the rise of urban areas, ecological factors are responsible for the decline. 2022, last one. This earlier we have written also, 2022. The urban character of the Harappan civilization was a result of neither outside influence nor a sudden. It's not sudden also, it is not outside also, but a gradual evolution of regional socio-economic factors. Simply they are asking the connectivity between earlier cultures and Harappan civilization. So broadly, if we write this is urbanization. Before 2600, village settlements. After 1900, village settlements. And questions are coming: gradual decline, factors for the gradual rise of urbanization. So what are the various factors? And in this particular time period, so much trade activities, religious beliefs, economic activities, and some of these cultural features entered into the later ages also, and some of these elements entered into this phase also. So just broadly you give this image. This will give you the continuity. So it is not a sudden one. Indus Valley civilization is not a sudden one. It has continued connectivity with the previous generation. It has continuity with the next generation. Now we need to see some people associated with discovery. Okay, now we are entering into modern India, because that time only it was discovered. Till the time we never know. Sanju, have you written? Okay. Now, just you make a India map, and in that map we will show some elements. Give the heading, subheading, discovery of Indus Valley civilization. Do you know, before the Punjab kingdom was conquered by British, who was the major personality? Who was the major ruler? Maharaja Ranjit Singh. And do you have any idea up to which period he was ruling? Broadly in which decades? Or in 1800s, 1700s, which one? 19th century? Around? Sanju, any idea? Satya, any idea? Second? Here, Ranjit Singh was ruling up to 1830s. Beginning of the first half of 19th century, in 1800s. So up to 1830s, Maharaja Ranjit Singh was ruling. When he was ruling, it was very powerful. One of the powerful empires, Sikh Empire. Meanwhile, Britishers were conquering Madras region, Bombay region, and this part also, starting with 1757. Which battle? Battle of Plassey. Then 1764, Battle of Buxar. With this, Bengal came under them. Awadh also, even Mughal emperor also became pensioner. Gradually, he became dependent on British. And they conquered Carnatic region also while doing this process. They conquered Mysore region also, Tipu Sultan by 1800. Yes, as part of treaty, he had to cede 50% of his territories also to the British. He had to pay huge war indemnity to the British. And before he paid, they have taken his sons as a hostage. French, yes, he was having good relations with the French people. Already British and French, they were always against each other. Napoleon wars were also, Napoleon just emerging. Or you can say French Revolution started in 1789. Right, Tree of Liberty, he considered himself as citizen Tipu. So not like a king, he's like a normal citizen. So those are the policies he was following. Now British conquered this area also. British conquered Maratha region also. By 1818, Third Anglo-Maratha War. 4 Anglo-Mysore Wars, 3 Carnatic Wars, 3 Anglo-Maratha Wars. By the time 1830s come, their empire now shared boundary with the Sikh kingdom. Why we are talking about this? Harappa is located here. And here, this was Sindh kingdom. Sindh was also conquered by the British in 1843. It was one of the most immoral acts. The person who conquered Sindh himself accepted. This is one of the most immoral acts. We don't have any right to seize the Sindh. Because they cooperated with the British so much that they always had very free trade. They were easily moving through this. And in Afghanistan also, whenever they wanted to go to the Afghanistan war was also going on in 1830s. Sindh people, they encouraged, but they were defeated in Afghanistan. And they were defeated, and while they are coming, now they felt that they have to show. Now, if they are seen as weak in front of Indians, now their legitimacy, their authority will go down. And because of that, they want to do something, they want to annex something, and they annexed Sindh. For the British failure in Afghanistan, Sindh people paid. The person, Charles Napier himself says, we don't have any right to seize the Sindh, yet we have to do it. So that was the kind of imperialistic policies of the British. Even at this point of time also, this was very powerful. As long as Ranjit Singh was there, it was very powerful. But after the death of Ranjit Singh, once again, succession wars, power struggle, and these people involved in that. Finally, with the second Anglo-Sikh war, they conquered. Dalhousie was there. Dalip Singh, Rani Jindan, and finally, they also conquered. This is how the political activities were going on in 1800s. And this was the area, Harappa is there, but no one knows the greatness of civilization of India. And gradually, this is the time period in 1813, in 1930s, they were following the philosophy of utilitarian philosophy. And they were propagating that. They came here to civilize Indians. It is their God's duty. God sent the British to this location to civilize the barbarians. So that kind of theories they were propagating. And Macaulay in 1830s, English education also, and he told, even one library is also not sufficient, not equal with the entire literature of the British and Arabia, India and Arabia. So he simply discarded the great India's literature in front of the English literature. Because by 1830s, French Revolution, Enlightenment age, Industrial Revolution in Europe, scientific advancements were going on. The mind of the Europeans altogether is changing. So many philosophies, so many developments, Industrial Revolution. And they felt themselves as if they are the most advanced people on the earth itself. And God has given them duty to propagate these modern ideals to the rest of the world. And same theories they were propagating in India. But they don't know that even much before they learned the culture, already Indians lived in. That's why Karl Marx said in 1850s, the very mother country of cotton flooded with the textiles. Because they used to take raw material from India to London, Manchester, and from there they used to bring the manufactured textiles. As a result, the gradual deindustrialization, they have broken the handloom of India. Gradual deindustrialization, agrarian. By 1750, in 1750s, India was commanding 25% of the world trade. So India used to supply 25% of the trade with all the areas, towards East also, towards West also, towards Europe also. And Russian emperor said, if you trade with India, that means you are trading with the world itself. That was the kind of economic power India enjoying in 1750s. But by 1850s, now condition already deteriorated. And by 1947, we know how. Even today also, we are still facing the problem of that. On one hand, economic exploitation was going on like this. They were degrading the Indian culture on one hand. But there are people who always has seen India's culture in high regard. That's why Anglo-Orientalist controversy also emerged. There was literal fight between two sections of people. One section says India is great, and there is so many things are there in India to learn. But there are other people, they said this completely degraded. Once it may be great one, but now it is completely degraded. We need to discard every element of the. In the words of Cornwallis, every native Indian is a corrupt. That's why he used to say, when he introduced civil service reforms, every native Indian is a corrupt. So they used to brush everyone with the same brush. So that was the kind of attitude they were showing. Under these circumstances, some people were working to revive the India's greatness. And in that context, Asiatic Society of Bengal was, you give the list. Now this will help you both for your prelims also. These quotations and these developments you have to use in your answer writing also. They start, now you write this one, then I will explain. In which year? Do you have any idea? In which year Asiatic Society of Bengal was formed? Around which time period? 19th means 1800s. Sanju, Satya, any idea? Asiatic. Sorry, which time? You can type also. You can type also. Asiatic Society of Bengal was formed in 1784. 1784. And do you know the person who was behind Asiatic Society of Bengal? In prelims also, this question was asked, and it was even repeated also. William Jones, he was instrumental. Very, very important for prelims also. And wherever in your answers, you can bring this fact. So since the establishment of Asiatic Society of Bengal by William Jones, like that you can use in the introductions also, in the conclusions also. 1784. Now the purpose of this one is, they just conquered in 1757 Battle of Plassey, 1764 Battle of Buxar. Now they established diarchy. Robert Clive established diarchy. He don't want to take entire administration into the British hands because he know the limitations of that. They don't have the sufficient men also, sufficient administrative machinery also. Most importantly, they don't know about Indians properly. Before this, Hindus were treated with Dharma Shastras for justice system and Muslims with the Islamic related text. So different type of laws were there for in India itself. They don't know exactly how the previous administration was going on. That's why the ultimate purpose of the East India Company is to gain the profits. And they have taken the revenue department and other administrative departments were taken, given to the Nawab. This is what called diarchy, dual system. As a result, it neither helpful for East India Company nor helpful for Indian people also. British East India Company, they were the people of East India Company or the employees of East India Company were rich. And they were going with a lot of riches to India, into London, and even they were purchasing the MP post also. They were called rotten boroughs. Rotten boroughs means you can you can purchase MP seat. Likewise, those whoever are employees of East India Company, they were going with a lot of money and they were spoiling the parliament also there. That's why parliament had some kind of interest what these people are doing here, how they are getting this much rich. On one hand, employees are rich, but on the other hand, company is showing as losses. In the company books, it is saying loss came. Then it generally showed interest in the London. And in fact, in 1770s, Britishers were fighting with Americans also here. American War of Independence also going on from 1776 onwards. July 4th? July 4th, tomorrow. July 4th is the Independence Day of American. Now, on one hand, these people are fighting here, 1776 to 1783. And Britishers were losing here, and they are losing this colony. This colony is very, very important for them, they are losing. But at the same time, they are gaining other colony. This also a question for us in modern India. British lost one colony, they gained other colony. That was the question, comment. You have to connect with this and this. Now, this is in 1784, we are saying Asiatic Society of Bengal. So by 1784, they already lost this. Now, gradually they understood the importance of India. They had to control India. Because in order to compensate this loss, they have to get over there. And gradually in 1773, Regulating India Act was passed. In 1783, Peace India Act also passed. Parliament started taking the control gradually. And this one, they created Supreme Court also. And William Jones was one of the judges of Supreme Court. Because they are the judges and they had to know about the laws of the Indians, Hindus also, Muslims also, and Europeans are also there. Europeans, nothing but English people were there, French people were there, Dutch people were also there. So you need a different kind of system, you have to understand it. So one section felt it is better first to understand the existing Indian society. And this is the time, from this time period onwards, they started understanding the Kalidasa works, Manusmriti, Dharma Shastras. They started translating into English. These are in Sanskrit, and they started translating, and Abhignana Shakuntalam also translated, Manusmriti, Dharma Shastras, Bhagavad Gita also, because they all to understand the real, the core philosophy of the Indians. This is how these people, whoever now, before this translation, they were degrading. But after translation, they started praising India's culture, the greatness of the way. Kalidasa has written works during Gupta time period. And at this time, in England, Shakespeare, very famous, in 1600, Shakespeare has written. He is considered as the greatest writer. And after translating Kalidasa works, they started comparing Shakespeare and Kalidasa. That's why Kalidasa was also called Shakespeare of India. And you will see these kind of epithets, the more they know, they used to, by discovering Samudragupta Allahabad inscription, they named Samudragupta is Napoleon of India. So the more they discover, and they started comparing with the counterpart of Europeans. So this is how gradually they started understanding Indian way of life. That was the primary purpose of Asiatic Society of Bengal. This is happening in 1784. And in 1826, you write this person name, Charles Mason. Charles Mason stood on the mounds of Harappa. Charles Mason stood on the mounds of Harappa. Now this is very, very significant aspect. This we considered as the beginning of discovery of Harappan civilization. This is Harappa. That's why Indus Valley civilization, we have other name, Harappan culture or Harappan civilization, because Harappa is the first place in the process of discovery of other cities, other towns in Indus Valley. Now Charles Mason, what happened in 1826? Now in 1826, they are already fighting in this part. Here Punjab is a separate kingdom. Now you see, this is separate country. It's like this is separate country, this is separate country. This is India, this is Pakistan today. Now you imagine a army person, Indian army general, who felt that Indian army conditions were very bad. In order to escape from Indian army, he escaped into Pakistan. Similar thing happened this Charles Mason also. He was a military person and he don't want to stay in military, and he absconded from military and he entered into Punjab, Ranjit Singh kingdom. And he was sitting there and he felt that already so many stories were there about India, they know. These many developments are already going on since 1784. Now you see, we are in 1826. Since 1784, someone discovering something here in Madras region, someone something, Hampi region, Vijayanagara kingdom. So much Indian discovery was going on. And in the process, they know about Alexander also. Alexander came to Indian subcontinent also, and he was one of the greatest general. Army people always take the inspiration from Alexander. And he felt on this mount he sat and he thought that this is the place where Alexander fought with Porus. So you just write this. He thought that this must have been the very place, this must have been the very place where Alexander had defeated Porus. Alexander had defeated Porus. So now you can see how they are trying to take the inspiration from the past, and they somehow they want to show that always British Europeans were great. And he started looking for something, and in fact he felt that if he discovers something, because once you desert army, you will be punished severely. And if you want to be pardoned, you should do some great work. Then only you will be pardoned. Finally, after this discovery, he was pardoned also. He was saved. But this is the beginning, we can say, Charles Mason the person, 1826. Now 1837, one development happened with respect to Indian inscriptions. Do you have any idea? James Prinsep, he deciphered Brahmi script. James Prinsep deciphered Brahmi script. This generated further interest in the Indian culture. Now they started knowing about Ashoka policies, and 300 BCE. So since 300 BCE, the policies of Dhamma, it was revolutionary in those times, and gradually they started understanding the importance. Now they generated curiosity that there is so much to learn about India and Indian culture. It led to the creation of Archaeological Survey of India. Do you know in which year? 1861. Archaeological Survey of India, ASI. Even today also, this institution is continuing. So this was laid foundation. Even before that, that was the kind of interest it generated. ASI. Now in 1863, do you remember, with respect to Paleolithic age in Madras region, one important development took place in 1863. Robert Bruce Foot. Sanju, do you remember? Robert Bruce Foot, he is associated with something in Madras. He was different. He was John Lubbock. John Lubbock, he divided Paleolithic, Neolithic, the coin Neolithic that happened in 1860. The exact year is 1860. John Lubbock. Okay, just a second. Yeah, you are right. 1865. 1865, John Lubbock, Neolithic, the coin. In 1863, in the Indian context, something happened. Robert Brucewood, he discovered first Paleolithic tool. Hand axe. He thought it is a normal stone, but it turned out to be a tool made by Paleolithic people. Now you see how archaeological survey, Robert Brucewood identified Paleolithic age, John Lubbock Neolithic. Now all these generated interest in the Indian past. Whatever they are seeing today, the society, the degraded society is different, but the India's past is different. And this gradually generated interest to know more and more about India's past. They started digging, and in 1872, Alexander Cunningham. Alexander Cunningham, he was known as, he is the first general, founder of Archaeological Survey of India. In 1872, Alexander military people only, because the study of these modern subjects like history, sociology, these concepts emerged in 19th century only. After knowing so much only, these kind of the compartmentalization of subjects like geography, history, sociology, political science, these topics emerged in 19th century only. But before that, the same person, for example, if you go back to time period of Plato, Aristotle, Strabo, and if you see their description, they were the geographers, they were the historians, polymath, philosophers, and if you go back to the roots, political science philosopher, those people only. Foundation of geography, those people only. Foundation of history, those same person, polymath. Because there was no compartmentalization of subjects. But as more and more about is growing, that's why as knowledge increased, this compartmentalization, like, okay, this area is related to history, this area related to anthropology, this is the area related to the geography. But before that, there was no distinction. The knowledge, only in 19th century and 18th centuries only, people started thinking more. Before that, in Europe also, religion was not encouraging the people to think. In 17th and 16th centuries, people were burnt alive for telling something new. And if someone says, Earth is not the center in the universe, then they were burnt. Heliocentric theory. Even the people initially, like Copernicus, he was the one who told the heliocentric theory, and he himself was afraid of telling to the public. Only after his death only, like Galileo also same thing. Secretly they were working. That's why that was the condition of Europe. So Europe was not in favor of this new knowledge. And you see, in those contexts, when Europe was under dogmatism, people like Kalidasa, he already told heliocentric theory in Gupta time period itself. So this shows that India must be more liberal comparing with the European society. So that's why, on one hand, India is projecting two kinds of scenarios. On one hand, outward appearance, it is saying that they are very uncivilized people. They are not interested in philosophy. They are not interested in philosophy, science. They are always interested in extraterrestrial religion. They are always worried about this karma theory. It was the outward appearance. But on the other hand, the more they dig into the history, they were coming to know that more advanced concepts. That was the development, and this led to the gradual evolution of the institutions to know more about Indian culture. In 1872, Alexander Cunningham, he revisited Harappa. In 1850s also. And if for your question, why military generals are discovering more? Because military people are very much interested in geography, history. Alexander also very much interested in knowing geography and history. That's why after battle with Porus, he allocated few people to know the route between the ocean route. He took land route only to reach this side. And do you know in which location Alexander died? Babylon. It is in present-day Iraq region. And only through land route only he came here. And again he went through land route only, Bolan Pass. But he dispatched one team to know about the sea route from India to Iraq region, Mesopotamia. So he was very curious to know about more geographic, because in his childhood he was taught the Herodotus, greatness about India, that generated more interest in knowing more about geography, more about history. That's why military people were very much interested in knowing, because they want to conquer more and more lands. At that time, today we have Google Map, we are seeing in front of us. But that time there was no, only they had to have very crude idea. And in fact, Bakhtiyar Khalji, who conquered Bengal region when Delhi Sultanate was established, he was thinking that just after crossing Brahmaputra river, he can reach the Tibet. Because that was a very crude idea. Geographically, they are not very good at that time. And he felt that just if he cross, he wanted to conquer Tibet. And he felt that just by crossing Brahmaputra river, he can reach the Tibet and he can conquer the Tibet. They don't know about the Himalayas. They don't know about how big Brahmaputra river. And his army literally drowned when monsoon came. Brahmaputra river became very big and they could not cross. Many people perished. And obviously, you will find resentment in the army also. And who is responsible for this disaster? Bakhtiyar Khalji. And he was murdered by his own soldiers. That was the condition. That's why military people were very much interested in knowing about exact locations. This is the reason Charles Mason also military person, Alexander Cunningham military person, and the person who identified Hampi, Vijayanagara kingdom, also military people. And in fact, in those times, you will not find the difference between military person and administrator. Military person only become the head of the administration. Cornwallis, for example, he is a military person. He was the one who surrendered to American forces. And later he was sent to India. And before he came to India, he told, I will not go to India unless you give me the military powers. Because he felt disaster here. Administration is one hand. Ground reality is different. Someone is taking the decision is taken here, but ground reality is different. Unless you have the full powers on ground, you cannot win such battles. That's why, even though he was appointed, but he refused to go directly. Unless you amend the law, you give me both administrative powers also, military powers also, then only I will go to there. And finally for him amended, and he came and he conquered Tipu Sultan region also, Mysore. And he brought reforms also, because now he is the boss and he don't have any control. Other person don't have any control over him. He has full freedom. He introduced civil reforms, police reforms. He conquered new territories also, all those things. That's why military people and administrators were no difference at that time. And do you know, one of the greatest discovery with respect to Egyptian civilization, there was one inscription like Brahmi inscription here. Rosetta Stone was there. There was one place you might have heard. Rosetta. It is a place and there was a stone. On that stone, something was written. Like Brahmi script, like Ashoka inscriptions, on stone, major rock inscription, on rock something is written. When it comes to Indian context, it is Brahmi script. Similarly, when it comes to Egypt, there was a stone in the place Rosetta, and this was discovered by, do you know who discovered this? Napoleon. Napoleon, great military conqueror. Yes, because he wanted to reach India. And at that time, Tipu Sultan, they were fighting, French and England, they were fighting, and he wanted to reach India. And before that, he has to reach this area. This area is under Ottomans. And he went there. And do you know, this military, he was a military person. But while going there with that army, they used to take archaeologists, astronomers, medical. In army, you will find these people also, geographers. Because to conquer a new territory, you have to know about the territory properly. You have to know the geography very well. Al-Biruni was a thinker. With Muhammad Ghazni, Al-Biruni came to India. So to know about new lands, obviously you need information. Today you have Google, you can search. But that time only learned people only can. Military person only, his focus is conquering. But he should get the ground reports. And that's why Napoleon, he was a military person, he used to bring these people to know more about these new areas. And in that process, he discovered Rosetta Stone. And do you know, this is a revolutionary, it helped to know more about Egyptian civilization. Egyptian script was deciphered from this. And it turned out to be a very historical development. Up to that time, we were like, till 1837, we never know about Ashoka inscription because we were not able to read. Even today also, Harappan script we are not able to decipher. If someone decipher Harappan script, definitely it's a revolutionary. We will know more about Harappa. Will history from prehistory to history it becomes. That's why now you think in 2023 also, if we can infer this, it's a revolutionary. In 1800s, inferring, deciphering something like this is a great revolutionary. So in case of Brahmi, James Prinsep revolutionized by knowing more about this. Rosetta Stone helped in knowing about ancient Egyptian civilization and ancient Sumerian civilization. So likewise, people were started showing more and more interest because all these areas were different cultures. Europeans felt they are very advanced and they want to expand. And in order to know more about these Oriental people, they started showing interest in the archaeology. That is why military people were involved in the development. Alexander Cunningham also a military person, and he revisited Harappa and he discovered some seals. Write this. He came as Director General of Archaeological Survey of India Now 1872. In 1872, Punjab also became a British Empire. By 1850s itself, they conquered. And that was also, now they can freely go. Earlier, they had to go to other kingdom, but now they need not to go to other kingdom. It is their kingdom. It is their empire. Now they have free run. Sindh also became part of British Empire. Sindh became a province of Bombay later. And this also, now British Empire itself expanded. Now they are free to do whatever research they want to do. And in 1872, as Director General, he went there. You write this. And by this time, what was happening? He felt shocked. In 1872, do you know in which year first railways were laid? Railway line, first railway line. Bombay to Thane, in which year? In 1853. No problem. First railway line, Bombay to Thane. Exactly. Now in 1853, in this location, Bombay to Thane, railway line construction is going on. And in next 20 years, in different places, railway construction work started. And in this place also, railway works started. Now these people are taking the bricks of Harappa to the railway construction. And when he visited as Director General, he saw that and he shocked. And he felt that it is something important archaeologically. We have to preserve it. We have to know something about this. And he really started showing interest. Before 1870s, in 1850s also he visited there. But he did not, he discarded. It's like a normal mound. Normal, nothing is there. But in 1872, he showed interest. And from this time period onwards, interest generated. You write one line here. Cunningham found, Satya and Sanju, you write after this 1872, Alexander Cunningham. Cunningham found stone tools, and ancient pottery, full stop. He also obtained a seal. With a bull. And some strange writing. Harappan script. But that time don't know. Today we are calling something, it is Harappan script. This was the beginning. And these people used to take inspiration from Napoleon only. Napoleon, he identified Rosetta Stone in 1790s. We are in 1870s. Obviously, to show something, to leave the legacy, these people took interest. He found stone tools, some pottery, seals with a bull, and writing also. So naturally, it shows definitely some hidden history, some mystery is there in this. You write this. Next point. He was intrigued, means some interest, intrigued, but concluded that seal must be a foreign one. must be a foreign one. Now you see, they, even though they identify something great, they are not ready to accept the greatness of India. They always see it to the prism of outside. Must be a foreign one because bull on the seal did not have a hump. Did not have a hump. Because humped bull is this is the hump. But on that seal there was no hump. In Indian bulls, you will always find this hump. And if there is no hump means it must be something foreign. So that kind of conclusion he identified. And last one, he missed a very important clue. He missed a very important clue. He missed a very important clue. And 1870s now gone. Archaeological Survey of India. Now Britishers were not in a position to fund Archaeological Survey of India also, because if you know more greatness about India, obviously it go against the British ideology. And that's why they always avoid. And they have money to show pomp and show. And in 1878, what was happening? Lytton. On one hand, famine was going on. On the other hand, Lytton, he conducted one huge darbar. Queen Victoria proclaimed she was the Empress of India. So up to now, it was a British East India Company asset after 1857 revolt, and they took away the control of East India Company, and now this became part of British Empire, and this land is also having a queen. Queen is Empress. In Indigo Revolt, what was their major demand? It was not the independence in 1860s. Their demand was Britishers were treating differently, Indians are treated differently. When we both are the subjects of Queen, you treat us like subjects of the Queen. Because we Indians also used the kings and queen rules. And we always felt if Queen directly rule, that will be more humane. That was the demand of Indigo Revolt also, to treat us equally with Europeans. And in 1870s, Queen Victoria, up to now, it was not part of the empire. And this also became Empress. Queen Victoria became Empress. That means officially it became part of empire. Huge darbar. On one hand, they are wasting money. On one hand, famines were going on. And in that context, archaeological survey departments will not get the funds. In 1870s, 80s, 90s, no fund. That's why literally they did not do anything. And only they showed interest in 1920s. And from this time period onwards, real development started in Indian context. In 1920, non-cooperation movement was also going on. And meanwhile, even in 1915, in 1415, Ardhashastra book was also discovered. And up to that time, Ardhashastra was lost in the history. Ardhashastra was somewhere found in Tanjavur. There was one library in Mysore. That person, a farmer discovered that book. And he took it to Mysore library. There was huge library in Mysore. All the manuscripts were there. And the librarian was studying all these things. And he studied. Something new came and he started looking the pages. And finally, it comes out to be the great treasury of India, Arthashastra. This also took place in 1915. 1915 and by 1920s, something already, some developments. 1920s onwards, real progress started with respect to Indus Valley civilization. Good question. So you are saying Chandragupta Maurya belongs to here. Arthashastra developed in this location. How come it lost in this location? So that shows the connectivity with the north and south since ancient times. The ideas, the books, ideas might be, for example, Mahabharata happened here, and how someone here also know about Mahabharata. Ramayana happened here, how some kind of version here. They traveled, so that shows the connectivity with this geographic land and this geographic land. Dandakaranya and Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka. So this shows the connectivity since ancient times. And in fact, where Chandragupta Maurya died? Where? Shravanabelagola? Now you see. During Chandragupta Maurya time period itself, he reached this place. And it is not surprising, Arthashastra reached here. Shravanabelagola, near Mysore only. Jainism also reached south at the time only. Arthashastra, the statecraft, Arthashastra was the contemporary of Mauryans. When emperor himself reached south, and it is not surprising that the ideas here reached here. The Vedic ideas reached here. And who? Shankaracharya. He took Vedanta to North India. Vedanta came from Upanishads, from Gangetic plain. But the revival of Upanishad Advaita philosophy, it went from south to north. There was one question, the identity of India, Indian culture. How Indian culture emerged over a period of time. These are all the examples you can give. This is how since ancient times, this is why when British used to train the civil servants, Cornwallis established civil service, and these civil servants, before they were given the post, they were taken to London and they were given the training. In order to reduce the expenditure, the Governor General Wellesley, he created Fort William College in 1800 itself. But East India Company felt it is waste of time and waste of money, and they don't want to train the civil servants here. They want to take there and they train. And do you know, when they are trained, they used to say that there was no India, there will never be India. So that was the kind of feeling. Because in India, always one kingdom fight against the other kingdom. They were never united and they will never be united. But these are all the examples to show that we were culturally united since ancient times. So these are the examples you can give. Kashmir, Shankaracharya Hill in Kashmir you will find. And eastern, 4 matas established by Shankaracharya. So this side, this side, this side, this side. The Bhakti movement. Here also Bhakti movement. Gujarat also, Rajasthan also, Kashmir also, Bengal also, Chaitanya, and in Assam also, Shankaradeva. So culturally, this land is always united. And this is one of the very powerful ideology in uniting after 1947. And this is what unifying India today. If there is no such a cultural, emotional connectivity, we will split into many pieces. And even today also, Pakistan's one of the unofficial policy is to cut India into 1,000 pieces. Because we cut Pakistan into East Pakistan and Bangladesh, West Pakistan and Bangladesh. And they want to take revenge even today also. Yeah. So even today also that was the, because they always want to take the split in the country. We were always split. We have so many identities: regional identity, language-based identity, region-based identity, religion-based identity. But this cultural, since ancient time, this cultural unity is keeping India survive. Otherwise, they will take Kashmir, someone take Northeast, someone take South, separate. Even the army still believes that they can divide India. After 1947, many foreign authors, many particularly American people, that time Cold War was going on. After 18, Pakistan is part of American camp. India unofficially became part of USSR camp. Always these Western scholars used to say that India will always divide. Within another 20, 30 years, there will never be India. Because we were someone fighting for religion, language. First language-based state, Andhra was formed, and for that, hunger strike happened. Sri Potti Sri Ramulu. Because of that, so many places language-based state demands came. So these development, on one hand, these demands are going on. India is a poor country. Democracy, in whenever elections comes, violence is to take place. But comparing with modern standard, that was one of the advanced. So much illiteracy, despite illiteracy, every year, 5 years elections were taking place. Adult franchisee, and people were skeptical. Skeptical because we were divided based on language, based on caste, based on religion, north, south, northeast, west. But despite that, we are still, after 75 years also, we are celebrating 75th year as a united country, not separate country. For example, Pakistan became 2 countries. Sudan became 2 countries, north and south. Yugoslavia, it became multiple countries. Russia divided multiple. When so many countries faced that threat, South Korea, North Korea, even in Sri Lanka also, civil war. When such things were happening just surrounding ours, India is still surviving cultural, because this cultural bond since ancient times. In 18th century, we know that we had it, but we never know systematically in the form of a study. This is what happening in 1800s. And these archaeology and historians, archaeologists, military generals, all of them contributed. Up to now, the British people contributed. Now by this time, Indians were also trained. English educated Indians also emerged by this time. Indian historians also emerged. Indian archaeologists also emerged. Now you see here in 1920, Indian archaeologist. 1920, Dayaram Shani started excavations at Harappa. Started excavations at Harappa. Exactly. Some Indian historians themselves said these culture came from Sumeria only. Yeah. Because that time, today we have at least technology. Even today we can see photographs from top, satellite image, aeroplanes also, overview we can take. But that time people had to go to the ground and they have to search. Equipment is also not modernized. And mostly we were having so many stories within the villages surrounding that area. We used to believe, even today also, we have in every area we have these stories. For example, do you know what is the Ravan? He ruled Sri Lanka. But do you know what is the birthplace of Ravan? Somewhere near Noida only, in Delhi only. Even today also, in other places, Dashera is celebrated where Ravana images were burned. But in that village, they will never burn. They are afraid. If such Ramlila happens, Ravan may curse them. So these are the traditional stories. And same thing might be happening in this place also. Because Charles Mason, he believed Harappa Mound is the place where Alexander fought with Porus, but Alexander and Porus fought somewhere here, above that. Not on River Ravi. Harappa is located on the River Ravi. But they fought between Jhelum and Indus River. But that was the tradition. Those traditions were continuing, and they have to, that's why the stories on the ground, the stories really what history happened, you have to separate. That is the work of historian and archaeologist. Dayaram Sahani started excavation at Harappa in 1921, next year. Up to now, there is no official announcement that there is a great civilization. Excavations were going on. R.D. Banerjee. R.D. R.D. Banerjee excavated Mohenjo-daro. In map pointing also, if map is related to Mohenjo-daro or Harappa, you definitely bring people name. Excavated by Dayaram Sahani, Harappa, excavation by R.D. Banerjee. Particularly if Indian archaeologists, Indian historians, we should definitely. Because these names only gives the pride of Indian culture and Indian advancement. 100 years ago, 1920, in 100 years ago, condition was different. Socio-religious reforms, our Indians themselves felt our society degraded. But in the next 100 years, our Indians, English educated Indians, now they became the civil servant, they became now archaeologists, they became the modern philosophers, painters, everything. R.D. Banerjee, now next one, in 1924. So this was the beginning of Harappan discovery in 1924. And at this time, John Marshall, he was the Director General of Archaeology, Archaeological Survey of India. He made formal announcement, write this line. He made formal announcement of discovery of Harappan civilization. Harappan civilization. So now you see how much story is there behind this discovery. And this was the year non-cooperation movement just stopped, and many youth started participating. Under these circumstances, if someone says, suppose even today also, if someone says India's greatness, if some discovery happens, definitely youth become charged. Elder generation have some kind of opinion, but youth, just they are coming to the politics, just they are coming to the public life. And if they know something great about India, they will take it further. Jawaharlal Nehru was very young at this time. And in 1930s, he personally visited Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, these areas. Excavation was going on. Indians were also demanding to allocate more funds to the Indian institutions. Local self-government also, provincial governments also. Now when provincial governments happen, now definitely you will try to allocate some funds to know more about India's progress. And he also, under these circumstances in 1940s, when he was in jail, he wrote this book, Discovery of India. So that was the beginning. Charles Mason, in which year? 18 1826. Formal announcement took place in which year? 1924. That means how many years? 100 years. So it was the progress of 100 years. After 100 years, British accepted officially that India was civilized 3000 years ago itself. That is why that question was, up to now, what was the condition? We never know about Indus Valley. We only know Vedas. Even Balagangadhar Tilak also, he was very much interested in Vedas. Balagangadhar Tilak, he was very much interested in Vedas. Our freedom fighters, they were very learned people. They used to read about Vedas. Swami Dayanand Saraswati, he was active in this place only. Go back to Vedas. So go back to Vedas. Why? That means Vedas is the beginning of Indian history. There was a belief that Vedas is the beginning of Indian history. There is nothing before Vedas. But this discovery gave new identity that India civilized before Vedas also. That is why that question in 1980s, was India civilized before advent of Aryans? So this is the discovery. This has completely changed our attitude towards our own history. Balagangadhar Tilak said, Aryans came from Arctic. Swami Dayanand Saraswati said, Aryans came from Tibet region. Why they were showing that interest? Because we need to counter the British ideology. Britishers were always degrading the Indian culture. They were saying that India never treated women equally. But Indians were trying to bring ancient scriptures and showing how ancient past women were treated. But they accepted that in the present circumstance, women were degraded, no doubt, but we need reforms. That's why socio-religious reforms emerged. That's what Indians used to counter. And the Indian, for example, universal adult suffrage, we have given everyone 21 age, irrespective of the gender. And at that time, even some of the European countries women don't have the women right. That is what our counter argument. You are showing ours is a degraded one, but we were having the progressive elements. On the other hand, you are already degrading. And the republic, they were saying we were always used to despotic rule. We never know democracy. But our scholars used to bring the concept of republics during Mahajanapada time period. Sabha Samiti during Vedic time period itself. Mahajanapada time period, Buddha belonged to a republic, Mahavira belonged to a republic. So this shows, since ancient times we had whatever modern ideals they are preaching, Indians all tried it. But today India's condition is different, no doubt. India requires reforms, no doubt. But you cannot degrade us. Since ancient times we were barbarians. So this is the importance of ancient Indian history. Because it is giving gradually the identity of India, identity of Indians, so that we can stand proudly in front of those who are degrading us. Otherwise, tomorrow someone will come and say, India is nothing, we came here to civilize you. If everything destroyed, if history is destroyed completely, there is no Veda, no Indian history, no archaeology, nothing. And if we forget everything about our own past, what happens? If you erase everything, then tomorrow someone will come by seeing the present day condition. This is the condition of India. You are not a civilized one. We are here to civilize you. So, even in India also, some people will be there to ready-made accept the modern ideals. That's why during British time period also, not always all people opposed British ideology. People are there who supported. Even in 1947, when India got freedom, people like Ambedkar, he was not that much interested because he was afraid. If British were not here, the progress made in the development of distressed people or depressed class again, the same caste system, same religion will impose on them. So he was afraid. But he proved to be wrong. Constitution provided a different set of principles to give empowerment to all sections of people. So that is what, always skeptic people will be there. India is a very diverse country geographically. You will have a lot of ideas, and progressive ideals only take final shape in the ultimately. So this is what 1924, almost after 100 years of the first discovery of Harappa, official announcement of Harappan civilization started. Now you give one, next one, importance of the discovery. This you can use as introduction also or conclusion also. Importance of discovery. One paragraph I will give, you write. The implications of John Marshall's dramatic announcement were enormous. Full stop. An important and exciting fragment of India's past. An important and exciting fragment of India's past had been uncovered. Comma, and the beginnings of civilization in India were pushed back some 2,500 years. Some 2,500 years. Full stop. This period roughly contemporaneous with the civilizations of Mesopotamia and Egypt. Mesopotamia. Before 1920s, already Sumerian civilization, Egyptian civilization, already know. That's why India had no civilization, only Sumerian and Egyptian civilizations were great. That's why after the discovery also, to identify itself, they have taken time. Even after the discovery also, they started declining, saying that it is not indigenous. Sumerians came and established urban areas. And now so much archaeological evidence came out, and finally conclusion is clear that it is not the sudden one, it is the gradual. Now, by this time now, Paleolithic age stone tools, Neolithic age stone tools, Mesolithic stone tools in different parts, that evidence also came out, and the conclusion is very clear that it is not a sudden one. It is not a sudden one. So they used to say that even after the discovery, now they are not happy to announce very proudly that India was very already civilized one. And they used to say that suddenly Sumerians came and they established cities. The other evidence clearly says that before the emergence of cities, there was so much development already since 7000 BC. Since the first village in Mehergarh, from the time period onwards, many villages, and tomorrow we will see those evolution of early Harappans, pre-Harappans. So this is how now questions are coming in this area also, the urban features and the decline. Nowadays, more questions are related to this part, continuity. After, yes, after some areas became Chalcolithic, some areas became early Vedic period, some areas became ochre colored pottery, some like that. They emerged from Chalcolithic, but again, after decline, they became. Suppose if Delhi became peak, now suddenly, if everyone abandoned, now it becomes a village. So it goes to the back to the ages. So likewise, they abandoned it. Now some questions are there like who declined, who destroyed, was there any destruction, causes for decline, or how the continuity, and in this period, what was their religion, their society, their economy, political administration. Those are straightforward questions. Just we need to know some elements, some characteristics, directly questions. But this part, we need to have some idea, and this part. So this part, that's why we have seen. And this is the area where most of the map-related questions will come. If you include Harappa also, almost 50% of the map questions, 25 marks, just map only. And 15 marker or 10 marker in the form of question, so 40 to 50 marks. And if you include Vedic also, because Vedic period also you cannot study in isolation, because Vedic also has connectivity with this. And if you include some parts of Vedic also, pastoral, so how it is, so that kind of theories, those things also we need to see. So some kind of connectivity we are going to see with late Harappan people and Vedic, Rig Vedic people. So up to that point of time, almost 60 marks. And if you include megalithic also, 65 to 70 marks will come. That's why up to megalithic, now if you see our syllabus also, first 4 chapters, this is third one. This is third one. Fourth one is megalithic, fifth one is in Vedic period. Okay. Okay, that is because of the period. Because around 5000 BC itself, 4000 BC itself, they are in urban areas. And before that, there were no one in urban areas. And that shows they are the one who started. But after 2000 years, if someone starts urban areas, so someone will try to link it. It might be natural one, but still some people might try it, because already 1000 years, 2000 years ago, someone already developed. They might have taken some inspiration. So this kind of theories will come emerge. Sanju and Satya, up to now clear? Clear? Okay. Today we will stop here. So this is very, very crucial link in understanding the importance of Harappan. Remaining is very straightforward. Religion, some urban features, those things. After those features, once again will come the decline. That will give the connectivity with Rigvedic period. You read R.S. Sharma, okay? Upinder Singh, just if you go through the images, maps, if you can, that is also fine. But read R.S. Sharma and NCERT, okay? All right, tomorrow we will meet. Thank you. You can go.